Were you taught to be a good girl, to be easy to work with, to take direction, to be nice, to be quiet, and then felt no matter how much you complied, that you were still being overlooked, disrespected, and undercared for? Then this message is for you. Being a good girl often means shrinking yourself to fit someone else's version of what's acceptable, making yourself small to avoid conflict, ignoring your pain, and ignoring your power. And the truth is, good girls get walked on, and goddesses get respected. Today, we're going to unpack what it truly means to be a goddess, not a good girl. And I'm going to be using the real, brutal, unsanitized, uncensored versions of the stories of Athena, Aphrodite, and Medusa, and give you the real savage truth on how they held on to their power fiercely and ruled their worlds unapologetically. By the end of this video, you'll see who's been quietly stealing your power while you played the good girl role and how to get that shit the fuck back. Why being the good girl is not good for you. And most importantly, how to stop trying to be liked and start being impossible to ignore so that you step into your full power and demand the respect you deserve and have earned. This is your goddess blueprint. Everything in life is a mindset. If you want to get it, then you gotta really want that. If you really want it, then you gotta desire that. Now, let's all have a seat. Athena, goddess of wisdom, war, and strategy, was not a gentle diplomat or a passive peacemaker. She was a leader who wielded power unapologetically, a tactician and a protector who moved with divine precision. Your girl came out the head of Zeus, fully dressed for battle and ready to get down, physically and politically. She was never trained to be soft or sweet or small. She came to this planet to rule, and she was respected because anybody knew that if you were disrespecting justice or order, that she was not afraid to cut a bitch down as needed. And she wasn't considered a good girl for doing that. She was considered a great being. But Athena wasn't just respected for her brilliance in war and politics. She was also one of the rare goddesses who actually uplifted women, like, when it truly mattered. She's got some stories too. Take the myth of Athena and Heracles. Instead of running in with brute force and domination like most of the male gods would, Athena admired the Amazons and even stood up for their right to rule themselves. She saw their power not as a threat, but as something sacred, something that deserved to be protected, not conquered. Athena did not entertain petty jealousy or girl-on-girl rivalry. But if you crossed her, disrespected divine order, or acted out of selfish chaos, she would cut a bitch down without a second thought. Not because she was heartless, but because she knew her role was more important than being liked. She commanded armies and settled conflicts and refused to be undermined just because of her gender or emotions. Athena was loved and respected. But she was never expected to be soft or to please anyone. She made it clear from the jump. I lead, I protect, I conquer. That's it. And don't get me wrong, she had enemies, gods and mortals. But she didn't waste her time trying to be nice to them. She didn't ask for their approval. She commanded respect simply by being. And she met hostility with strength. And she stood 10 toes down in her truth and in her power, regardless of how others felt about it. She was a goddess. And oftentimes a girl's girl, but not a good girl. And in that, she was respected, loved, and revered by the people that truly matter. But not all goddesses wore armor. Some wore amour. Used their allure like a weapon. You know who I'm talking about. It's Aphrodite. Aphrodite, Aphrodite's approach. I'm gonna call her Aphrodite for the rest of this because I be thinking Aphrodite. Aphrodite. Sorry, that's my favorite goddess. Okay, I cannot pipe down about Aphrodite. I'm warning you. Aphrodite. I can't even say it. I can't even say it without saying it. Aphrodite's approach couldn't have been more different than Athena. And yet, she was just as respected, just as divine, and just as dangerous. Where Athena embodied strategy, intellect, and righteous justice, Aphrodite moved like velvet fire. Living in her light feminine energy, Aphrodite was soft to the eye, but she could still consume kingdoms. She was the goddess of love, yes, but that love was never gentle for the sake of pleasing others. It was strategic, commanding, unapologetic, and sensual. She was the divine feminine in motion, a goddess, not a good girl. Aphrodite's story is not just about love and beauty, it's also about control and power. When Aphrodite was born, the gods were battling up in the sky, and she was literally born from the sea foam that came from a man Shlan Pufa getting ripped off his body and thrown into the ocean. Aphrodite's existence within itself was born of pure chaos. She wielded desire and beauty as the light that they are, but she also controlled it as a weapon. She understood the power of feminine energy and that it can be used to create and build worlds, but it can also be used to destroy your enemies and people who aren't walking in the love and the light and in the beauty. Like, Aphrodite literally orchestrated wars by creating conflict between the mortals and the gods. The Trojan War, which was sparked by this infamous golden apple, was literally a direct result of Aphrodite's influence. And that conflict reshaped civilizations. Whole civilizations. She was unapologetically sexual and commanding, which are two things that we're taught as the good girl never to be. She used seduction to get what she wanted, which is not a very good girl thing to do. She was challenged by other goddesses, especially Hera and Athena. And you know what? Aphrodite never softened and she never backed down. Instead, she used her beauty, her power, and her influence to dominate in her own way, unbothered by their jealousy, disapproval, and rivalry. She wasn't interested in being liked. She was focused on being desired and respected. And when necessary, she was absolutely fucking ruthless in the pursuit of it. And did that stop us all from understanding that she was beauty, love, and light? No, because she was intentionally wielding her beauty, love, and light, and doing so gracefully. Aphrodite was a goddess, not a good girl. She was a goddess, the goddess everyone wanted to love or was jealous of. And even when she manipulated or deceived, it was done in the name of love, allure, and desire. She was palatable, praised, protected, and adored. And she was still considered a good girl, even when she was garnering respect and taking actions that were not the typical good girl archetype. But that's exactly why I want to talk about Medusa. Personally, I think Medusa was one of the greatest goddesses ever written, and I don't think she gets respected in the way that she should even now. Because no one ever really talks about how Medusa was literally disrespected, punished, and taken advantage of because she was a good girl to start. So, for those of you that don't know, Medusa was immortal, and she was beautiful and devoted and a high priest of Athena. Like, girl was literally a virgin. I'm talking, Medusa was so good, she was like season 6 April Kepner level good. Until she was essayed and violated violently. And when I say essayed, I mean like all the way essayed, if you know what I'm trying to say. It's YouTube, so I can't say the word. By Poseidon in the one place she should have been safe. Like, she was literally in their version of church, she was in a temple. And instead of being defended, she was punished. Instead of being believed, she was blamed. And beauty, the very thing wielded by Aphrodite, was turned against her. And after that, she was transformed into a monster with snakes for hair and a gaze that turned men to stone. And to be perfectly honest with you guys, I think if you think about how that would translate to modern times, that happens to women still now today. Because she was a good girl that up until now everyone had envied or been jealous of, and because she was the good girl that up until that point everyone envied or was jealous of, they felt they could trample on her over and over again because she wasn't owning her beauty in an empowered capacity. But she became a direct result of the lesson I'm trying to teach you guys today, and that's that being a good girl is not good for you. And from the pain she endured from being a good girl, she made power and she became her own kind of goddess and the hero of her story. Now, I will admit, she did go a touch past being respected and into the land of fear. Not great. But in that fear, those people now had respect for her power because she was no longer being anyone else's victim. She didn't weep and she didn't wait. She turned men to stone, not out of vengeance, but out of justice. She was not worshipped with roses, but she avenged herself with every gaze. She became a goddess, not of love, but of survival, not of adoration, but of her truth. She was the hero of her own story, and she wrote it in stone. She became a goddess, not a good girl. Because while everyone else's perception was that she was this evil woman who was turning men to stone at a glance, she was actually the woman who was turning men to stone who were trying to take advantage of other women and or attack her. Medusa's story is the most painful, but to me it is also the most powerful and deserves the most respect. And while it may hurt, Medusa became the embodiment of trauma. And oh, you have no idea how much in my heart I wish that in that story that she was healed. You know, like, whew, I could cry. I love Medusa so much. Okay, let me focus. I always be crying when I get on these videos. Be filled with emotions. Medusa became the embodiment of trauma, and she was demonized by those who refused to see her pain or her injustice. She was cast out, feared, and hunted. But Medusa didn't try to be the good girl after all of this. She didn't beg for sympathy or forgiveness from the gods or the men who wronged her. She became the villain to her villains. She used what she had, and she turned her curse into power, protection, and revenge. Her gaze literally stopped predators in their tracks. No mercy, no second chances. Medusa's power was born from her refusal to stay a victim in a world that punished her for being a good girl who got violated. She was not the bad guy, and she was no longer a good girl. And as far as I'm concerned, she was now a goddess in her own right. And she deserved better. And my hope is that after this video, you will be a great person and stop being a good girl to your detriment and respect and love and stand up for yourself before this world takes advantage of your good nature. And as you can probably tell from how emotionally invested I have become in this moment, I'm speaking from my own experience. And I want to be clear, being a goddess doesn't only apply when you're in opposition to men. Be a girl's girl. But let's be honest, even the mythology shows us that goddesses had enemies, including each other. Athena and Aphrodite famously fought over this golden apple, and it represented more than just vanity. It was a battle over power, influence, and respect. This girl on girl rivalry is a mirror to the real world today. The goddesses of this world are looking to create win win situations, but they aren't peacekeeping at the expense of their peace. And that goes for anybody, men or women. And sometimes that means having to accept that you're not going to be the good girl in everyone's story. It's about being the hero of your story. The lesson? You don't have to try and be friends with your haters or your rivals. You don't have to try and keep the peace in a war zone. You are allowed to protect your power, to set boundaries, and stand your ground, even if that means being seen as the villain by someone who is trying to victimize you. Because at the end of the day, goddesses are not here to be liked. We're here to lead, to move with purpose, to take up space, to take the high road, and to leave with our power still very much so intact. These women were not good girls. They were great women. Remembered because they owned their power and used it unapologetically to change the world by seeing themselves as the heroes of their story. You don't owe anyone your softness. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone a seat at your table who isn't willing to respect your throne while you're sitting at it. Being a goddess means taking care of yourself first, being clear, being powerful, and doing what needs to be done unapologetically. It means loving yourself fiercely, even if the world calls it too much. And even when the people around you don't understand the depths of your pain or the vastness of your power, and that you are the hero of your story. You are not here to be a good girl. You are here to be a goddess. Own it. And when necessary, cut off what no longer serves you with love and light. Because what we're also not doing is allowing us using our authority to pull us out of our character. Ultimately, we are still good. And that girl is safe with us. And if you can feel this message in your bones, hit the hype button or the like button, whatever button it is today. YouTube's always switching stuff. I don't know anymore what the button is. Hit that button, subscribe, and comment below which goddess you are channeling today. Athena, Aphrodite, Medusa. You can also pick from the rest of the Greeks if you want to give us a little story time. Let us know why you picked this goddess. I'm here for it. I will read it. I promise. And share this with the woman in your life that you wish would just stop being such a good girl and fight back, because you are a goddess, not a good girl. I love you. Hey. And that's the secret to life. If I told you once, then I told you twice. The hardest things that cut like a knife is changing habituated strife.